past weekend, I stood shoulder to shoulder with indie film rock stars who were humble, vibrant, and alive. And the next day, I was at Walmart and no one could meet my eyes. What changed? This made such a strong impact that I have to share this with you guys. So, welcome back to Fantasia. I'm happy to have you here. It is such a beautiful thing to be with people who get it, who want to be seen, and are willing to show up. And if you are a listener, I know that you're one of those people. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you. If you appreciate the show, please let me know with a comment or share it with someone who needs to hear what we're talking about today. So there are people asleep at the wheel, people who are waking up, and those who have been awake for a while. Talking about the things we talk about here and sharing this type of information helps others to wake up. It lets them know that they're not alone and gives them the courage not to blend in and be silent. And as you will see, life is a lot more fun and meaningful when we all show up and just be. So what's that got to do with IndieFest? So let me back up. So IndieFest is the independent film festival held in Richmond, Virginia that is produced by my sister's organization, Richmond Film Network. And it exists to promote and recognize independent film producers for bringing original ideas from concept to finished product. It is also a terrific networking event for anyone who's interested in film, from the cameraman, lighting, sound, set, decorators, writers, actors, whoever. I don't know the first thing about film, but I met all kinds of people who had really impressive resumes, and I couldn't believe that they were all right there. They were all accessible. I could and did talk to them all about what they've done and what they're doing, and they were all so generous and willing to share. And this is really surprising because I looked at going to a big New York film festival, don't remember the name of it, but it had so many films showing in so many places. It was overwhelming and confusing, and the talent was very separated from the audience. There was no way you were going to have any personal contact with anyone involved in the actual making of the film. But here at IndieFest, everybody was right there. So there wasn't a shred of ego in the room at all. The honorees were just like everybody else. They were supportive of others and humble. They remembered what it was like to struggle and were so eager to share their stories, both the highs and the lows. And most of the people that I spoke with were multi-award winning artists in their field. They came from as far as 3,000 miles away to share the spotlight with others in their field. And I was kind of surprised because I've been a performer. Performers or artists in general can be catty. They can be moody, protective of their thoughts and energy. They can be afraid to share the limelight, but that wasn't the case here. The energy was open, warm, generous, and magnetic. So I don't like crowds. I don't like small talk. But even though there were a lot of people, this didn't feel like a crowd. It didn't suck the energy out of me. And the conversations were real. Even the casual conversations felt connected. There was no posturing or hierarchies. It was just people alive with purpose and joy and connected by love of the craft and the mutual respect for their fellow artists. So it's not my day at all. I'm just there as a volunteer. I don't know the first thing about film, like I said, and yet I was still included in that wonderful vibe. It's like if you're here, you're family. And I shouldn't have been surprised. My sister is the hostess, and we grew up with that vibe, but it's still really hard to pull it all off. But especially when you're attracting people that you don't know, they're friends and just kind of, the general public. But the vibe was just that good. Everybody caught it. And that's how I rolled. So now, less than 24 hours later, I'm at Walmart, and suddenly I feel completely invisible. And it's probably always like that, but I had just had a day that was saturated with warmth and snuggles and bubbles and, all that juicy stuff. So it was really obvious. And I was at the counter waiting for a clerk to help me. And I'm looking around at my fellow shoppers, and it's like the complete opposite vibe. Nobody's making eye contact. They all have their heads down or are making an effort to avoid looking at me. Everybody's rushing past each other or so intent on whatever they're doing that they might as well be in the store alone. And that's how I felt. It felt like I was in the store alone. Like, despite having all these bodies here, nobody's here. It wasn't even disconnected because it was beyond that. It was like there was nobody to connect to. So why do you suppose Some spaces invite us in and others shut us out. What makes some people open and welcoming and others closed down? So, as a trauma therapist, this is something I've been curious about for a long time. Early in my counseling career, I didn't know anything. They don't teach you how to do counseling in college. They really don't. So I think I was thinking that the whole cognitive behavioral thing, because that's what you're taught, meaning that if you know better, you do better. And I thought being happy, healthy, and open was about having people skills. So I taught people how to think, how to be social, and how to have healthy boundaries. That helped. That helped a lot. I mean, think about it. If you're raised by wolves and all your friends are wolves, there's a lot of stuff you don't learn. So, learning that it's okay to say no to what you don't want, asking for what you do want, and learning how to disagree without fighting, well, all that can be life changing stuff. But people still weren't happy or healthy, just healthier, because you can't be happy if you aren't safe. All of those skills, all they do is give you better ways to cope with the crazy. That's when I really started becoming interested in trauma and the impact of trauma on the whole person. I discovered that when someone has trauma, it's like living in a minefield. You never know when you're going to step on a landmine. And if you trip one, you never know the devastation that might cause, because is it going to blow just your nose off, or is it going to take you out completely? And will it take out other people too? When someone has trauma, skills are not enough. That landmine gets triggered and the brain goes offline. It doesn't matter how many skills you have, they aren't accessible. You're just a victim of your nervous system until it's ready to calm down. And if you have complex PTSD or developmental PTSD, your nervous system may stay on high alert all the time. I've certainly seen lots of people who did lots of therapy, and I mean good therapy too. They made lots of progress, but either they still are easily triggered, or with some of them, they aren't really triggered at all, but they still aren't happy. They're alone, lonely, and disconnected. Even if they live alone or with someone they know and love who is kind and considerate, they still don't feel emotionally safe inside. And that's the big thing that is missing in most wellness, coaching, or therapy programs. Most of them focus on skills, reaching goals, and that kind of thing. But without that emotional safety, it's just another band aid. That's why the self help industry generates something like $4 billion a year. There are lots of great ideas out there that make you feel better or smarter for a while, but it doesn't fill the hole inside, because safety isn't just the absence of threat. It's the presence of belonging. Learning new skills and taking away triggers and even calming the nervous system down won't give you a sense of belonging. They can make it easier to attain, but a feeling of that sense of belonging, it's a different thing. So let me show you what I mean. Most of us don't feel unsafe in Walmart. It's a big store. There's lots of people around. It's well lit. There's usually safety in numbers and in well lit places, right? And yet it feels emotionally unsafe because of the lack of social connection. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was smiling, saying good morning, or giving anyone eye contact. It was like a desert or a ghost town in there. Contrast that with IndieFest, which felt like a community. And it was apparently very easy for strangers to open up and embrace each other as fellow artists and enthusiasts because of the emotional safety and connection. I was at the door volunteering, so I was one of the first people, if not the first person, that everyone saw. Everybody was greeted, welcomed, and shown hospitality throughout the event. And even when someone is hospitable, it invites you to be a good guest. So it ended up being a mutual love fest where the love just kept circulating around. And this is important because when there is trauma, we focus on protecting ourselves from danger. But it's just as important to be seen, to belong, and to matter. We need spaces like that to feel at home in order to thrive. It's just part of the human design. When I was a dancer, dancers would gouge your eyeballs out if they thought it would take you out and put them on stage in front of you. I was never one of those people. Being seen wasn't my reason for dancing at all. So I didn't think I needed to be seen. And I found out what that was like, and that I did need that from Moon Circles. A Moon Circle is a gathering of women where we go within to feel our feelings and share our experiences of what it's like to be a woman in the presence of other women. It's a call for vulnerability and honesty. And the first time I did that, I thought I was going to faint because I couldn't breathe. It brought up so much stuff that I didn't know was inside of me. And I'm quite sure I didn't even say anything provocative, But to be that naked in front of women, and I was bullied by girls my whole childhood, so that was like a huge emotional risk for me, but it was still very healing. It was like I opened up my soul for judgment and criticism, and nothing came. There was only warmth, welcoming, understanding, and at the end of it all, I felt like I was finally permitted entry into the circle of womanhood that had been denied to me my whole life. I have my sisters, my mom, and my friends, so I didn't feel a lack of this until I was let in. And you belong everywhere. I belong everywhere. We all belong to each other. And denying that to someone is cutting yourself off from all that is. So it's really crucial to all of us to belong somewhere, to someone, to something. Most of us don't belong. We figure out the rules of the game and do what we need to do to look, superficially respectable and to avoid scrutiny. And if we're really determined to fit in, we might even convince ourselves that we're just like everyone else. But for the ones who can't do that, the contrast between the outside and the inside hurts. We feel like imposters. And sometimes we're so afraid of being outed that there's this constant anxiety about blow on our cover. It's like if everyone is going to college, well, we're going to college too. If everyone's kids are in travel ball, our kids have to be in travel ball too. If everyone is wearing whatever brand is popular right now, we have to do that too. It's all about the look. Short hair's in, long hair's in, these colors are in, this music is in. Everything is evaluated as cool or not cool. And God knows we've got to be cool. Belonging is not that. Belonging is about being yourself in a space where you are free to be unique. And perhaps this is why it was so easy for people to fall into that space of ease. At IndieFest, most of those people don't fit in. They're artists, they're quirky. Some of them dress outrageously. Some have really creative ideas. Some are passionate about what they do, so they don't have time for the popular thing because they're too invested in what they're doing. They don't even know what that popular thing is. And they're storytellers, so they talk about things that aren't mainstream. They're actors, so they do emotions, at least act like emotions. And they're speakers, so they're okay talking. And one of the things that I have always enjoyed my whole life is being with people who are themselves. When a person is relaxed and in their skin, the light comes through. They shine with such beauty that you can't help but admire them. Doesn't matter what they look like on the outside or what they're interested in, that beauty permeates the whole space, and it's lovely. It doesn't matter if someone is honestly in pain, in ecstasy, in horror, or whatever they're feeling. That vulnerable expression of truth is beautiful, and the world is blessed by it. About a decade ago, Sebastian Junger's amazing book, Tribe, came out, and everybody was talking about finding their tribe. The idea was that if I can just find my people, I can relax, be myself, and be happy. So you don't go wasting your time going down that rabbit hole. Let me just say that that is not what I'm talking about. That's more like the fitting in path. I was recently at a commune to see what that's like, and they have an inclusivity policy, obviously. Everyone is free to be themselves, but there was zero sense of belonging. It's not exactly like Walmart, but close. People waved to each other and ate in common spaces, but what I saw seemed to be more like solitary living in close proximity. There were neighbors, but not neighborly. There was no common care, probably because there was physical safety without emotional safety. And I want to live in a world of emotional safety. I want to have that IndieFest feeling, that family feeling, wherever I go. Don't you? I have some ideas on how that can be done. I'll share mine if you share yours in the comments. Cool? So, first is to be aware of how you show up. I mean, everywhere, but particularly in public places. So, I grew up in a safe neighborhood. I would be outside sometimes way after the streetlights came on, and we'd go into the woods, out by the train tracks, ride our bikes miles from home, and just explore everywhere. And I was never afraid. Maybe that's because I was naive, as a kid, or maybe it was because my neighbors were present. I knew who they were. They spoke. We didn't have AC in those days, so most people sat outside on hot summer nights on the porch because it was cooler. So we saw each other. Your neighborhood feels like a neighborhood because of the people in it. If you want to feel like there's a place to belong to, you have to have a sense of place. So start with the people in your neighborhood. And I say neighborhood because if you don't have that in your family is probably going to be too scary. They're part of the dynamics of fitting in and separateness. So they're part of the problem. So you might want to get some success elsewhere before you start to be vulnerable with them because they have the most power to hurt you. And you want success at the early part of anything new to encourage you to continue to see things through. So start with your neighbors or coworkers. That works too. So think about my Walmart story. Make micro connections in the grocery store checkout line. Make eye contact. Put a smile in your voice, not as a defense so people won't hurt you, but with the intention of connecting. Say hello and good morning, not as a polite pleasantry, but as a heartfelt greeting. I say good morning to my cat and dogs every morning. I totally mean it too. I sing to my dogs too. We definitely belong to each other. So if you're an introvert and you're thinking, that's easy for you to say, well, I'm an introvert too. It costs nothing to smile. And what made it easy to talk to people at IndieFest was that I was genuinely curious. All I had to do was say something like, tell me about your movie, or where did you travel from? And then sit back and let them do the rest. They always said something new that made it easy to stay curious and interested. So be curious. Be interested in what your people are doing. Invite them to open up. Appreciate what they're saying. Even if you don't agree or don't understand it, that's really all it takes. Who knew it was so easy, right? People think that you have to host a block party or volunteer to build connection. It's not about being in the same place at the same time with people who like what you like. I hosted a meetup for 10 years that had over 3,000 members, but there was very little connection. People came, took, and they left. There were only a handful of us who showed up regularly and got to know each other. So it's not about the what, it's about the how. I think what my sister does really well at IndieFest is that she sees people. She remembers their name. They are often surprised that she knows them by name, even though they've never met in person before, but they have social media contact. There's a picture and a name. She promotes them beforehand, so she's familiar with their work, where they live, and little things. So it's easy for her to talk to them like they know each other, because for her, they do. So the how that I'm talking about is to pay attention. Call people by their names. Remember small things about them. Keep things personal, kind, and warm. We all learn about belonging from infancy. We all know what it's like to be held. Connection is about being emotionally held. Give everyone a safe space to be with you, and assuming that we all have healthy boundaries, there's your belonging. That's your family. You don't need a badge or a lanyard or a title to belong. You just need presence, openness, intention. So I know I didn't give you a list, so let me recap my tips for creating belonging where you are. And don't forget to give me yours. So the first was to be aware of how you show up. Make sure you're not checked out like the Walmart crew. Second, make micro connections. Smile at the person in the drive-thru. Make eye contact with the neighbor who's walking the dog. That kind of thing. 3 is to be genuinely curious. A curious person can find anything to talk about. I don't mean chit-chat or small talk, which I hate, but something meaningful to you, like you've got to tell me about that hat, or where did you come from? If either of those questions are of genuine interest to you, then those are good openers. 4 is to see people and let them know that they've been seen. You don't have to fawn all over people. You can just act genuinely interested and nod your head, smile, say something appreciative. It matters. When you create sunshine for someone else, it shines on everyone, even you. What I am saying is you create the culture. Don't wait for the culture to come to you. Take the initiative. It doesn't take long for a love bomb to spread. If you start with small acts of connection, the world gets warmer one glance at a time. And when you are the source, community isn't a place. It's a practice that you take with you wherever you go. Have you ever felt that shift in energy between places that I'm talking about? Share your story in the comments. I know this has got to be common. And it's not about shared heritage, religion, or belief system. We belong to each other because we're one. When you show people that through their actions, they remember. So let's all be that reminder for someone else today. And of course, if you want a space where you can feel this and practice it, join my free community. You're welcome here. Thanks for being here, guys. See you next week. Ciao.
Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Spotify so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, why not show your love with a review? Thanks. See you next week.